All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping far past the threshold of the familiar. We're going into the dark.
The quiet dark.
Exactly. We've pulled together a pretty substantial dossier here. It's a collection of 25 distinct, raw, first-person accounts of anomalous encounters.
And these are not the polished reports you might be used to. These aren't government filings or, glossy documentaries.
No, these are whispers. They're the unfiltered moments captured in those tense, dead hours between midnight and dawn, and they stretch all across the continent from the damp coastal silence of Port Angeles, Washington, all the way to the dry, pressurized air of New Mexico.
What we have here for you listening is an incredible, almost chilling data set. These are the moments where the reliable structure of the mundane world it cracks open for a second.
And something else looks through.
Something purposeful, silent, and technologically superior looks through. So our mission today is analytical. We are treating this as a comprehensive database of experience, and when you start to synthesize these isolated incidents, the patterns of behavior are, they're absolutely unmistakable.
Right. We are looking for the common architectural signature, the signature of an intelligence that doesn't just travel. It actively manipulates the environment around it for stealth.
It's all about control.
Yeah. We need to categorize the shared sensory details, the highly specific smells, the deep, non-mechanical sounds, the physical feelings of pressure, and maybe most unnervingly, the temporal distortions.
And missing time.
The missing time. All these things that connect these isolated incidents into one cohesive, terrifying pattern. So we're going on a deep dive into the very structure of the close encounter experience. We're focusing on the subtle, physical, and digital ways these phenomena seem to enforce a field of control around themselves.
Let's start with the opening act. It's the most common data point we have, the arrival. But this isn't an arrival marked by, fire and fury.
No grand entrance.
Not at all. It's defined by an unnatural efficiency. It announces itself through these anomalies of light and sound that they radically defy conventional physics.
So let's get into phase one, the quiet arrival. Anomalies of light and sound.
Uh-oh.
When most people think UFO, they imagine
Sorry.
high-speed chases, blinding spotlights, maybe sonic booms.
Right, Hollywood stuff.
Exactly. But what is so chilling about these 25 reports is the utter absence of any of that. There's no conventional noise, no thermal output. These reports describe a visual signature that we're calling the unnatural glow and smooth ascent, and it really speaks to an intentional, almost perfect stealth system.
The defining characteristic is the lack of everything we associate with functional light. I mean, it's not the warm, flickering yellow of a fire.
Right.
It doesn't cast sharp shadows. It doesn't leave a contrail or a heat trail. It's often described as a soft, shapeless light, almost a diffused presence.
That's a great way to put it.
Take Adrian Vez, outside Port Angeles at 2:18 in the morning. He reported a pale glow seeping through his curtains. And his words are hauntingly specific. It was too even, too quiet.
Too even, too quiet. That phrase just sticks with you. It doesn't sound like a spotlight from a helicopter. It sounds like a section of the sky itself had just fallen and was resting there on his lawn.
That's it. That phrase, diffused presence, is so key because it suggests a controlled energy field, not just a simple light source like a bulb. Vez saw what he called a dim orb or dome drifting into the dark, soundless. And the retreat upward wasn't a sharp launch.
No blast off.
No, it was an unhurried, smooth departure. And get this, the source noted that 3 days later, it came back.
It came back.
It came back, creeping across his carpet this time like fog made of glow. That recurrence, that quiet persistence.
Yeah.
It removes any doubt that this was just some random atmospheric event.
Oh, absolutely. This was targeted. It was observational. And this leads us to the mechanism of disappearance, which is just as profound as the light itself.
Right. It's the visual sign of erasure, not acceleration.
Erasure. I like that. Curtis Molina, reporting from Tacoma, watched this light hover for a few seconds, and then he said it didn't speed away. It just thinned out like it evaporated.
He watched it dissolve with no trail, no fade out. Colin Mercer, over in Cedar Falls, saw a faint glow hovering above his roof and then noted it just dissolve without a sound. It's like an error in reality had been corrected.
I think we need to really emphasize that mechanism, the dissolution. It's the difference between, say, turning off a lamp where there's a gradual power down, the filament cools, and just erasing a sketch entirely.
Exactly.
If this phenomenon is based on any kind of physics we can comprehend, that dissolution suggests the object isn't moving through space, but maybe translating out of our dimensional visibility.
Or perhaps it's rapidly collapsing the energy field that even makes it visible in the first place. which is, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yes, it is. And here's where the physics speculation gets really challenging and, frankly, terrifying. We're moving beyond the soft glow to what Rowan Decker experienced near Missoula. We've termed it the anti-star.
This one is deeply unsettling.
So Decker was outside on a cold, clear night, just watching the sky. He saw a tight cluster of stars start flickering violently, and then they went completely dark for a few seconds.
His words were, like a hole punched through the night.
A hole punched through the night.
Yes,
That's
sure.
deeply unnerving, because it implies a localized visual void. It's not just something passing in front of the stars like a satellite.
No, a satellite would just block them for an instant. This suggests the object is either absorbing light or, and this is the heavier idea, radically warping space-time to bend the starlight away from the observer's location.
Let's unpack the implications of that. Light extraction. To create a localized, temporary visual void to make starlight that has traveled for light years just disappear. That requires a massive, controlled energy input or output.
And if the object is creating some kind of energy field that bends light around it, like a real-world invisibility cloak, that process itself would be thermodynamically violent. There should be heat, there should be noise, there should be something.
But the reports all insist on one thing.
Silence. Perfect, efficient stealth. This suggests an object capable of manipulating optical physics with just absolute control.
And Decker's follow-up observation is the key. This is what proves it wasn't just some weird transient optical effect in his eye. After the stars came back, he noted one was missing, or at least it was noticeably dimmer.
And then, chillingly, he saw a faint, dull glow drifting beneath that darkened, now asymmetrical patch of sky.
So the light returned, but the area was fundamentally and persistently altered. That suggests the phenomenon might involve the actual extraction of light or a temporary localized gravitational distortion, not just its emission. It left a scar.
Exactly. The object is a master of temporary optical camouflage. It can put on a disguise and it can take it off, but sometimes you can still see the seams.
Okay, let's move from the visual signature to the auditory one. The second major tell of arrival is what we're calling the deep, non-mechanical hum. You're asserting this should be analyzed as a signature of pressure or energy transfer, not conventional propulsion. Why is that distinction so critical for us to understand?
Because conventional mechanical sounds, whether they come from turbofans, pistons, internal combustion, whatever, they have a distinct acoustic signature. It's tied to friction, to movement, to heat.
You can recognize it. It has a rhythm.
It has a rhythm, a predictable rise and fall in pitch. The sounds described across these 25 reports are flat, constant, and crucially, they're often felt physically.
Like the sound itself is a physical force.
Precisely. Callum Price in Red Bluff experienced this repeatedly around 5 in the morning. The sound was a flat, constant hum, unbroken, with no rise or fall, and he explicitly noted it was not mechanical.
He used a fascinating analogy, didn't he?
He did. He said it felt like a giant appliance running just out of sight. Now, when you have a massive energy transfer happening, maybe utilizing magnetohydrodynamics or some form of silent resonant propulsion, that energy signature might translate into a continuous physical vibration rather than the acoustic waves we'd recognize as a machine.
And the other accounts confirm this. The hum creates vibrational resonance through physical structures.
Right. Camila, an apartment neighbor, she felt a soft vibration through the floor. She said it was almost like the building itself was humming. This was at 2:36 a.m. Now, a standard structural engineer might blame old ductwork or the pipes.
But the context is key. The hum coincided with the presence of the glow outside her window.
And then there's Darren Howell at a gas station in New Mexico late one night. He felt a steady vibration running through the metal body of the pump he was holding.
So all the pumps at his station started humming in sync.
All of them. The attendant just brushed it off, said it was old wiring, but Hal felt the vibration was deeper, suggesting an external, powerful, low-frequency energy source was coupling with the metal structures of the pumps. It was momentarily overriding or harmonizing with the existing electrical systems.
So the vibration isn't just a side effect of the sound, it's the physical manifestation of a sonic or maybe an energetic field.
I believe so. But the most dramatic piece of evidence that this is a controlled field is what happens next. It's what we're calling the synchronized silence and release. This is almost programmatic.
It's like a switch is flipped.
It's terrifyingly precise. The event is a dramatic binary switch. The hum stops so clean and sudden that it felt like someone had hit a switch. It doesn't fade, it doesn't sputter, it just ceases.
And what happens immediately after is the key data point.
Yes. Callum Price reports that the second the hum stopped, Every bird around my yard burst into noise all at once, a chaotic, sharp release of sound.
It's not just the birds either. Eli, driving through the Flint Hills, he reports the crickets went silent instantly when the phenomenon was near. And the wind. The wind felt like it had stalled.
It's as if the localized atmospheric conditions, the wind, the ambient noise from insects, from birds, were all put on pause.
A stillness field.
A stillness field.
Yeah.
This specific timing, the hum, the sudden stop, and then the chaotic, immediate release of ambient noise, it suggests the phenomenon imposes a localized field of silence or stillness. It's effectively freezing the ambient environment to ensure its own stealth.
A mechanism to suppress environmental feedback.
Exactly. And when the object or the field departs, the environment instantly snaps back to its default hyper-alert state. This speaks to a level of sophisticated, precise, and instantaneous energy manipulation that is, well, it's far beyond anything we can currently do.
Okay, let's unpack phase 2, which is where this all gets much more physical. This is where the encounter moves from just observation to active environmental control. It starts with the signature odor. Cold, metallic, and utterly sterile. This is a recurring, very specific detail that really anchors these disparate reports together.
Smell is a primary piece of sensory evidence. In classic military or traditional UFO reports, you often hear descriptions of sulfur or burnt ozone, like from lightning, or hot oil.
Combustion smells.
Right. The consistent description across these 25 reports is a distinct, sterile, cold odor. It's completely different.
And the witnesses, they often use this really striking analogy, the scent of cold metal and batteries. Eli in the Flint Hills, he smelled something cold and sharp like I rubbed a coin between my fingers.
And Darren Hall's experience at the New Mexico gas station was even more specific. He said the metallic scent was sharper than the usual gas station stink, like cold coins and old batteries.
So what does that suggest to you? Coins and batteries?
It suggests raw electrical discharge, perhaps ozone, but crucially it's described as cold. This is the chemical signature of a low-temperature, high-voltage operation. If the craft uses some form of exotic propulsion that ionizes the air, say, manipulating plasma or gravity, the chemical residue left over might be this cold metallic scent. It's clean, sterile, and processed. It's definitely not organic or combustion-based.
And the context of when it appears is vital here. This smell often accompanies or immediately follows the object's disappearance.
Which suggests it's the residual effect of the field collapsing. For Adrian Vez, the cold metallic scent drifted faintly through his open bedroom window, lingered for about a minute, and then vanished, as if someone had shut a door on it.
That phrasing is terrifying. As if someone had shut a door on it. The smell didn't dissipate naturally into the air. It was contained and then removed, almost like the environmental field was sealing itself back up.
Well, if the object can create and collapse localized fields of silence and light, it makes perfect sense that it could also contain and remove its own chemical signature. It's about leaving no trace.
Okay, so now we connect that non-mechanical hum and the metallic scent to the overall physical sensation described by witnesses. This feeling of pressure and uncanny stillness.
This is experienced as a localized, deeply uncomfortable sense of weight. If the object is generating a powerful localized field, maybe affecting gravity or atmospheric pressure, the human body would experience that as physical discomfort. The sources universally describe the air feeling heavier or pressed flat and still.
For Callum Price, the air felt like walking into invisible humidity during the hum. But the description that I think truly nails the feeling of external pressure is Curtis Molina's report from Tacoma.
I know the one you mean.
He said it was a subtle heaviness pressing down on my ears and chest like when an elevator slows too abruptly.
That analogy is brilliant. It's just perfect because it captures that internal physical response to an external pressure differential that has nothing to do with altitude or conventional barometric changes. Now, as the devil's advocate, one might ask if this is purely physiological, a panic attack and adrenaline response.
It was all in his head.
Right. But what physical evidence separates that heaviness from simple anxiety?
The environment cooperates with the feeling. That's the answer. We just established the stillness field. The crickets went silent for Eli. The leaves froze in place, like the world paused for Callum Price. The quiet was eerie and too clean. The world outside was confirming his internal feelings.
And Daniel Ortiz in Santa Fe, he noted that the air was thick, pressurized like the moment before a storm breaks, even though the sky was perfectly clear. The psychological tension is critical because the environment is actively confirming the sensory input. It's telling you something powerful is here and it is controlling the atmosphere. If it were just panic, the leaves would still rustle, If they are frozen, the physical kinetic energy of the air itself has been temporarily suppressed.
And sometimes that field interacts directly, physically, but so subtly with our physical structures. This is the ghostly touch. And the interaction is almost timid. It suggests precise measurement or nonviolent observation rather than brute force.
Look at Colin Mercer's report from Cedar Falls. He found these thick, vertical condensation streaks on his window at 3.18 in the morning. He described them as like greasy fingerprints smeared vertically but larger. But he noted a crucial physical detail.
He said the streak was warmer than the cold glass around it.
Exactly. Wait, if the glass is cold but the streak is warm, that implies a localized energy transfer. It's not standard condensation.
It can't be. It could be condensation caused by a rapid temperature fluctuation, or maybe a non-contact heat signature left by something pressing close enough to the pane to create that moisture without actually touching the glass itself.
This suggests either a highly specific heat signature or perhaps a scanning mechanism, something that uses energy close to the window surface, drawing moisture to it. And furthermore, later accounts from Mercer noted faint curved impressions, like the edges of something larger, pressing gently, quietly.
Pressing gently. So the phenomenon is interacting with our barriers, the walls, the windows, to observe, maybe to scan the interior, but without ever damaging the structure. It's careful.
And we see a similar subtle interaction with vehicles. Daniel Ortiz's car alarm turned on, then cut off on its own. That was followed by that faint shimmer hovering just above the hood of his car and the air around the vehicle.
It retained the metallic smell.
That screens electromagnetic interference, EMI, or some kind of targeted energy interaction. A car alarm is a finely tuned electronic circuit. To turn it on, then off, requires a localized burst of energy that can temporarily disrupt and then reset the system. This confirms that the field generated by the object isn't just affecting sound and pressure, but the electromagnetic spectrum as well.
Which leads us directly to the concept of time and digital manipulation.
Yes, it does.
And this is where we move into the section that takes these encounters from just strange light sightings to genuine physics anomalies. We're talking about localized manipulation of time and physical reality. This is where the true terror of this deep dive really begins, starting with flattened Earth and frozen frost.
This is the paradoxical physical evidence. We have an object that is massive enough, or at least powerful enough, to leave an impression. Yet it's too precisely controlled to leave conventional tracks or even break the vegetation.
It's a ghost's footprint.
That's a good way to put it. Adrian Vez found a neat circular patch of grass beneath his bedroom window. He said it was gently bent, like something had pressed down evenly and then lifted away. It was perfectly pressed, like a giant, gentle steamroller had just kissed the lawn.
That sounds less like landing gear and more like the physical manifestation of that atmospheric pressure field we were just talking about. Like a massive circular gravity well or a pressure plate that just gently pushes down the grass without crushing the blades.
And the most compelling, but also most unstable physical trace is from the Raccoon Camera Witness Report. This person documented what they called the isolated frost circle.
Tell me about that.
It was described as a perfectly round, pale white, and faintly glowing frost patch right in the middle of a damp lawn. The temperature outside wasn't anywhere near freezing, yet this perfect circle of frost existed.
And the instability of it is the key, right? That's what helps us understand the physics.
Exactly. The witness noted that it vanished instantly when sunlight hit it. It didn't melt like normal frost. It just was gone. It wasn't dew or natural freezing. It suggests a chemical residue, or, more likely, an extremely localized, supercooled area that was thermally unstable under solar energy.
So if the object is manipulating physics, it might achieve stealth or propulsion by rapidly manipulating the thermal energy of the environment.
It could be drawing heat away for propulsion, or creating a supercooled envelope around itself. The grass blades inside this circle looked almost crystalline, suggesting a phase transition. And crucially, the grass around it still leaned inward, as if pressed down earlier.
So the traces prove that controlled weight and extreme localized cold or energy removal were happening at the same time.
Simultaneously employed. It's an incredible level of control.
But the most disruptive aspect for the witness, personally, is often the missing minutes. This is the evidence of localized time distortion versus just simple memory loss. For you, the audience, this is where the story shifts from something happening outside to an internal violation.
This is one of the most classic and yet most horrifying elements of these reports.
Yeah.
Because it challenges the fundamental stability of reality itself. Eli, driving through the Flint Hills, lost nearly 49 minutes on a familiar drive after seeing a smooth, reflective surface hovering on the road ahead of him.
And the event didn't just stop his memory. His phone clock and his car clock disagreed.
Drastically, by nearly an hour, and his radio went completely dead during the encounter.
That clock disagreement is crucial. If Eli was just panicked and pulled over, he might lose his memory, sure. But his objective measurement systems, the car clock synchronized by the vehicle's main battery, the phone clock synchronized by the cellular network, they should agree.
They should. The disagreement suggests a profound instability in the local temporal field during those 49 minutes. The external reference points like GPS or cell towers were either inaccessible or the time itself was warped relative to the outside world.
And Evan Holloway, who was jogging in Bend, Oregon, he experienced this digitally. He provided data points that basically rule out a simple memory lapse.
Right. His smartwatch GPS flatlined. It showed a clean gap where he lost over half an hour, even though he remembered still running the entire time. Later, looking at the data, he found a small, 1-minute flat stretch in the data where his speed was 0, even though he knows he never stopped moving.
That's surgical editing of reality. Did the entity temporarily shield the area from satellites, causing the GPS to flatline? Or, and this is the really chilling implication, did the entity temporarily pull Evan and his immediate environment outside of the conventional flow of linear time?
Making the intervening 30 minutes effectively non-existent to the global clock systems.
It's mind-bending.
And the disobedient clocks just reinforce this. Curtis Molina saw his digital clock slash the wrong time, 2:17 a.m. versus 1:59 a.m. on his phone, and then the stove clock corrected itself without being touched.
Right in front of him.
Right in front of him. Daniel Ortiz noted his car clock reset itself, and his watch and microwave clocks all showed different times. It's almost as if the local temporal field is collapsing and then reestablishing itself, leaving all these digital systems just struggling to synchronize with the new reality.
And this leads us directly into the most sophisticated piece of evidence showing targeted electronic interaction. This is digital sabotage, and it's focused on a camera anomaly. This, for me, removes all doubt that this phenomenon is technologically aware.
This comes from Caleb DuPont in Prairieville, Louisiana. His security camera footage provided the clearest, most clinical proof of manipulation I've seen. The footage showed a motion alert at 4:02 a.m., and it was followed by his entire yard washing out in a soft white flash.
So the soft white flash is the masking event. It's the cover. But here's the core data point that proves intentionality. The timestamp immediately skipped. It skipped exactly 2 minutes forward, as if the intervening period was cleanly cut out.
An electrical surge might corrupt the data, right? It might create static or a corrupted file, but it typically doesn't allow for a perfectly clean, gapeless jump in the chronological timestamp.
It's too neat.
Far too neat. This suggests targeted interruption and editing. The white flash may be a visual cover for whatever physical activity was occurring during those 120 seconds. It implies the phenomenon is aware of the camera's digital recording mechanism, its operating system, its clock, and it possesses the ability to perform surgical edits on the resulting data stream to excise the observation period.
And the escalation of stealth is just terrifying. DuPont's door sensor never logged him being outside to check the yard.
Even though he knows he walked right across it.
He walked right across it. The entity managed to suppress the camera footage, the timing, and the physical sensor that tracks movement. It's a complete information blackout.
And remember the raccoon camera witness? The one who sat outside to test the clicking sound of the camera shutter.
Yeah.
The phenomenon also prevented the camera shutter sound from being recorded. The implication is profound. This is not simple interference. It is a designed mechanism to generate powerful physical and electronic effects while simultaneously ensuring that the resulting data record is either corrupted or suppressed. It's built for unprovable surveillance.
Okay, now we get to the chilling aspect of intentionality. This is no longer just random energy fields or passive observation. These events are programmed, they're observational, and they are highly responsive. We are moving into calculated psychological warfare, starting with the recurrence and intentional pacing.
The sheer repetition suggests the entities are gathering data over multiple cycles. They might be following a structured, scheduled protocol or actively learning the routines of the human occupants. Adrian Vez noted the glow returned 3 days later.
So it wasn't a fluke.
Not a fluke. It was a repeat visit, likely to the exact same window.
And Callum Price, he experienced the entire hum, silence, bird burst pattern repeatedly, sometimes near dawn, sometimes right after nightfall. That suggests scheduled observation times. The phenomenon is mapping environmental conditions and human behavior. It's learning.
And it actively responds to the witness's actions. It's moving beyond passive observation now. Jonah, driving through heavy fog, saw these floating headlights, no vehicle, just the lights, and the horror set in for him when he realized they're pacing you perfectly.
I have to stop you there. Just let that sink in for the listener. Imagine the terror of realizing those lights are not on rails. They're not on a road. They are maintaining a perfect silent lock on your exact location and speed through thick fog.
And when he stopped his car, the lights stopped, hovering inches from where a car's headlights should have been.
Inches. And then they just pulsed once and lifted straight up into the fog. The action seemed calculated, like it was confirming it was an intelligence. It was maintaining a quiet, perfect surveillance on a moving human target.
This intensity leads to a breaking point for the witnesses. And that often comes with shared witnessing. The moment when this subjective horror suddenly becomes objective reality.
Yeah, that moment of shared confirmation is such a double-edged sword. There's the relief that you're not going crazy, but that's immediately replaced by the compounding fear that the unexplainable is objectively, undeniably real.
Curtis Molina's isolation just shattered when his neighbor, Marcus, glanced over and casually asked, "You seen that light too?"
And just like that, it's real. The shared experience validates the event, but it removes that safety blanket of self-delusion, of being able to tell yourself it was just a dream.
And for Jonah, his coworker, who was in the car with him, upon seeing the floating lights pacing them, just stated, "I swear those lights didn't hit the ground at all. They're just hovering there."
That validation shifts the entire experience. It moves from personal anxiety to a verifiable threat. Now, two people know something is watching them, and that knowledge is often more frightening than the initial sighting itself.
Which brings us to the culmination of this deep dive. The final, most unsettling accounts that suggest observation of the witness themselves, not just their location. This is the doppelganger and the quiet invasion, and it's the ultimate horror twist, because the entity is now using the witness's own identity as a tool of surveillance.
These accounts move beyond just observing the backyard or the house. They imply deep personal monitoring, cognitive knowledge, and potentially the physical replication or projection of the witness's image.
The story of Diane's neighbor is terrifying in its simplicity. Diane was verifiably across town at an event. There are receipts, there are witnesses.
She has an alibi.
She has a perfect alibi. Yet her neighbor saw someone who looked exactly like you standing in my driveway, looking straight up at 1:30 in the morning.
This is no simple mistaken identity. It's 1:30 a.m. This implies a temporary physical manifestation, a projected image, or a genuine doppelganger deployed for observation, perhaps created or activated during a missing time event that Diane wasn't even aware of.
Well, if the entity can manipulate time and electromagnetism, creating a temporary, convincing physical manifestation that only needs to stand still and look straight up, as if observing its parent craft, is technologically achievable. It's an external, personalized piece of surveillance equipment wearing your face.
And the level of monitoring escalates dramatically from there to the live photo, which represents the ultimate violation of privacy and personal space. The witness, let's just call him Sam, starts receiving these mysterious text photos of himself standing outside his own house, taken at 1:42 a.m. with a blank expression.
I mean, think about the technological layers required for that single act of digital terror. The entity knows Sam's routine, it has access to his phone number or the ability to spoof it, and it can operate a camera, potentially a drone or a replicated body, at ground level.
But the escalation, the part that really turns the screw, is when Sam is actively watching his driveway. He's completely inside his house, and a final text arrives, live.
Taken at the current minute.
Taken at the current minute, as the light hovers above his house. This implies the entity is observing, replicating, and communicating the fact of its observation in real time through his own technology. It is calculated psychological warfare. It says, "I am here, I am watching you, and I am using your own systems against you."
This is confirmation that the interest is centered on the person, not just the location. And we have to address the final physical evidence of intrusion. The witness's pedometer logging hundreds of steps while he was verifiably still in bed.
So something was moving.
Something was moving. This demonstrates a physical activity that occurred during the missing time, or the time the doppelganger was observed standing in the driveway. The evidence suggests the entity has the ability to observe, to replicate, to steal time, and to leave digital proof of its intrusion, all while maintaining its primary signature. Perfect, untraceable stealth.
So let's try to tie this all together.
What connects these 25 reports? From the metallic scent to the sudden controlled silence, the precise impression left on the grass, the stolen minutes, and the surgical digital manipulation is a comprehensive signature of controlled, localized physics manipulation.
It's not just flying.
No, it's not just flying. It is manipulating the environment itself. Pressure, acoustics, time, light, and electromagnetism, all to enable stealth and observation.
And the pattern is just so consistent. A silent object arrives, it's signaled by a hum or a glow, it imposes a field of stillness and pressure, it gathers its data, often stealing a few minutes of linear time or snapping a photo of an external self, and then it performs a soundless, unhurried departure.
The objects didn't chase, they didn't attack or overtly announce themselves to the wider public. They simply watched, they collected their data, and they left behind only these strange physical and temporal traces.
It forces us to redefine what we even mean by a close encounter. It seems to be less about physical interaction and more about surveillance, carried out with a level of technological superiority that renders our current defenses and measurement systems completely obsolete.
And the repeated focus on windows, driveways, backyards, our personal routines, it suggests an unnerving, quiet interest in human stillness and predictability. They are masters of the momentary, local violation of physics, designed to remain unprovable by any single witness.
We see a sophisticated entity that can freeze wind, bend light, suppress sound, step outside of linear time, and observe us so intimately without ever confirming its presence to the wider world. And if that is true, then the question isn't what they are or where they come from, but rather,
The question is,
are they simply waiting for us to stop looking down at our phones, to stop worrying about the next distraction, and to start noticing the uncanny stillness they create? And if so, what is the protocol for when we finally decide to pay attention? Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to take that huge stack of research, all those field notes and personal accounts you've gathered, and just get to the heart of it. We're going to distill it all down so you walk away knowing the core of what's really going on at the edges of our reality. And tonight, we're pulling our chairs a little closer to the fire because the stories we have are, well, they're unsettling. We're not asking, is it real anymore?
no, that's the old question.
It is. We've got this incredible compilation of UAP encounter reports from all over, everywhere. A driver in the Sierras late at night, a family watching a meteor shower in Nebraska, folks out near the Scottish Locks, even contractors working near those shadowy desert bases.
And the thing that ties them all together, the reason we're doing this deep dive, isn't just that they all saw something. It's the texture of the experience, the details they all reported before they even saw anything.
Exactly. It's the consistency of the weirdness.
That's it. So the mission tonight, for you listening, is to think like a forensic analyst. We're hunting for a signature, a common operational fingerprint left behind at every scene, no matter where it is in the world.
A fingerprint left in the silence, in the electricity, and even in time itself. So we're moving past what was it, and we're digging deep into what did it do. Because these reports, when you lay them all out, they suggest the arrival of these things isn't a spectacle.
No.
It's more like a bubble forms, a small local bubble, where our rules, physics, time, sound, they just get paused. Or maybe rewritten for a few minutes.
And we want to understand the mechanism of that bubble. Forget ufology. We're mapping an event that defies our models, and the only clues we have are these repeating, highly specific, and deeply strange details.
So let's start where the witnesses did. Before the lights, before the shapes. Let's start with the silence.
The big quiet, as some of the reports
Yeah.
call it. It's the overture. If this were a movie, you wouldn't start with a crash. You'd start with everything just stopping. A deep, unnatural silence that tells you something is fundamentally wrong with the world.
It's a stage being set, isn't it? Okay, so let's unpack that. This isn't just a quiet night in the woods. We have account after account where the entire environment seems to have a mute button pressed on it.
And it's the abruptness of it that's so unsettling. It's the sudden absence of the sounds you don't even know you're hearing until they're gone. That's what puts every single witness on high alert.
Right, it's the background noise of reality, the hum of the world.
Exactly. The insects, the wind, the distant rumble of a highway, you filter it out. But when it's just snipped out of existence, your brain goes into immediate red alert. Something has broken the pattern.
Okay, let's go to that driver near Reno. He's pulling off the highway, heading into the Sierra foothills. It's late.
Picture it. You're in your car, the windows are down, you can hear the crickets, the rustle of the trees, maybe a distant dog barking from a ranch down the hill. He said all of it just vanished at once.
He used this one phrase that just sticks with me. He said, "It felt like the world had taken a breath and held it."
And that's it, right there. That's not just silence, that's tension. It's the feeling of immense potential energy, like the second before a lightning strike, but there's no storm. The silence itself feels heavy.
It's physical.
It is. Your brain is desperately trying to fill in the gaps, but there's nothing there. And that's when the panic starts to creep in. Take the Nebraska farm story. They're out in the yard, lying on blankets, watching the Perseids meteor shower.
A perfect summer night.
The kind of night that's absolutely buzzing with sound, right? Crickets, frogs. It's a wall of noise.
Mm.
And the witnesses said it cut out like a switch was flipped, instantly. 1 second it's a chorus, the next, dead air.
And the silence was so total, they said they could hear their own breathing.
I mean, can you imagine? Suddenly, the loudest thing in the universe is the sound of your own body, your own heartbeat thumping in your ears. Every anchor to the normal world is just gone.
Yeah.
You're completely isolated in this sensory vacuum.
It's an instant shift from being a passive observer of the sky to being the only living, breathing thing in a world that's been put on pause.
And it's not just in the middle of nowhere. We had the report from the fisherman at Blue Water Lake. He was alone, out on the water at night. He said the frogs just stopped at 10:30 p.m. on the dot. Not one by one, all of them.
Like someone snapped their fingers.
Exactly. And he said the silence got so loud in its absence that he could hear the little chain on his anchor clinking against the boat's metal frame. A tiny sound that would normally be swallowed by the night was suddenly booming.
It makes your own existence feel inappropriate, like you're making too much noise in a place where you're not supposed to be.
Yes, that's the psychological impact. The report from that guy in the Iowa cornfield said the silence was thick and heavy. He felt it on his skin. It was his first clue that the laws of physics in his little patch of the world had just been rearranged.
So the stage is cleared, the sound is gone, but then the feeling changes, doesn't it? It's not just your ears anymore.
No. Once the sound stage is cleared, the atmosphere itself starts to change. Witnesses report these bizarre, unexplainable shifts. Tactile feelings, temperature drops, even taste.
Okay, the taste thing is one of the weirdest and most specific details. It's so hard to dismiss because who would make that up?
You wouldn't. It's not in the movies.
Yeah.
Go back to that Nebraska field. Just as the lights they were watching started to arrange themselves into that perfect hexagon, one of the witnesses said, clear as day,
Yeah.
I tasted metal at the back of my throat.
Like old pennies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have the same detail from a totally different witness, hundreds of miles away. A woman up late making tea in her kitchen. Right before she saw the reflection in her window, she said her mouth tasted like pennies.
So what on earth causes that? It's not a smell, it's a taste.
It's almost certainly a localized ionization event. Think of a massive invisible energy field building up in the air around you. It starts to strip electrons from the air molecules. It charges the particles you're breathing in.
And when those charged particles hit your tongue,
You get that sharp, metallic, coppery taste. It's a chemical signal. Your body's telling you that the air you're breathing isn't normal air anymore. It's been energized. It's like the smell of ozone before a thunderstorm, but you're tasting it,
it's an invisible warning.
a deeply personal one. And then comes the cold, the Reno driver, the same guy who felt the world hold its breath. He gets out of his car, and the first thing he notices is how cold it's become. A sudden, unnatural chill.
But it wasn't just the temperature drop. He said something about his breath.
Yes, this detail is critical. He said the haze of his own breath looked wrong for the temperature. It was too thick. And it wasn't dissipating. It was hanging in the air in front of his face, moving like smoke.
That's not normal condensation.
Not at all. It suggests a pocket of air right in front of his face had undergone a rapid, severe drop in temperature and pressure. The moisture in his breath was condensing into an unusually dense cloud. It's evidence of a tiny, localized cold spot. The energy required to do that is immense.
Right.
It's like the phenomenon is drawing heat out of the immediate environment.
Creating its own weather.
A microclimate, yeah. And often, inside that bubble of cold, silent air, there's another sensation. A vibration. People call it the hum.
And this isn't the sound of an engine. It's something you feel more than you hear, right?
Correct. It's typically in the infrasonic range, below what we can consciously hear. It's a pressure wave. You feel it in your chest and your bones. The witness in the Leith apartment felt a low vibration pass through the window pane, a faint buzz under their hand. It's a physical presence.
And in the big neighborhood sighting with the triangle, the hum was one of the first things to happen. At the same time, the power started to fail.
And get this detail. The witness said the humming note arrived from multiple directions at once. It made a wine glass on a table start to quiver.
From multiple directions. So it wasn't coming from an object.
No, that's the key. If it were a helicopter, the sound would be directional. This suggests the entire space, the whole bubble was resonating. The air itself was vibrating. It wasn't the sound of the object. It was the sound of the space being manipulated.
That is deeply unsettling.
It gets weirder. The camper at Laurel Hollow felt it coming up from the ground. He said the earth itself began to hum under his sleeping pad. He described it as a steady double-tap pulse that ran along the root lines.
A double tap pulse.
That's a rhythm.
A signal.
It's a signature. It implies a massive, coherent energy source interacting with everything, the air, the glass, the ground itself. It's the final environmental warning. But there's one more alarm system that goes off before humans even get a chance to react.
The animals.
The animals. They don't try to understand it, they just react. And their reactions in these reports are terrifyingly consistent. It's a two-stage process.
First, the alarm.
An explosion of it. In that neighborhood blackout with the triangle, dogs all across the area started barking at once. Not normal barking. The report says it was a low, urgent way. A real warning. And then a dozen of them howled.
All at once.
Once, like a choir. Can you imagine that? A dozen dogs, separated by fences and houses, howling in perfect, terrified unison. And then silence. They all went completely quiet for the entire rest of the event.
So they go from warning to submission.
Or paralysis. It's as if the field that causes the silence demands it. They recognize the threat, they sound the alarm, and then they're compelled to stop. Overridden.
We see that with the dog, Roxy, in the Nebraska field. A big guard dog.
Heavy dog. She knew the difference between a raccoon and a real threat. Her normal warning growl suddenly changed, became a low whine, and she was fixated on the window. Later, during the sightings, she just sat rigidly on her owner's heels, trembling.
She wasn't preparing to fight. She was terrified. She knew she was outmatched.
Profoundly. It bypasses the fight-or-flight instinct entirely and goes straight to awe, maybe. Awe and terror. And it's not just our pets. The camper at Laurel Hollow, the one who felt the hum in the ground. Before he saw anything, he saw 5 deer at the edge of the woods.
And they were frozen.
Frozen like cutouts, that's his word. Not just startled, not poised to run. They were static. All 5 of them had their heads turned in the exact same direction, staring at the same empty spot in the woods. They were locked in place.
Like they were forced to watch.
Exactly. An influence that is biological, that overrides instinct and forces them to be spectators. So let's recap the stage that's been set before a single light has appeared in the sky.
A total vacuum of sound.
A metallic taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
A pocket of unnatural cold.
A low, omnidirectional hum you feel in your bones.
And every animal in the vicinity has been suddenly and completely subjugated. The world has been prepared for what comes next.
And what comes next is where it gets, well, even weirder. We move from the sensory to the measurable, the data. And this is where our own technology starts to betray us, or maybe it starts telling us a truth we can't really comprehend.
We're talking about the digital anomalies, the glitches in the machine. This is where it becomes so hard to explain away, because you have receipts, but the receipts don't make any sense.
Let's talk about lost time, the time jumps.
This is, for me, the most challenging and compelling piece of the puzzle. The idea that these phenomena don't just move through our space, but that they also interact with our time.
And the most detailed account of this is the dash cam from the Sierras, the same driver we've been talking about.
Right. So let's break this down very carefully, because it's a paradox. He's got his dash cam running. He sees a light move in a clean horizontal arc across the sky. The movement on the video takes about 3 seconds. A smooth, continuous motion.
Okay, simple enough.
But when he reviews the footage later, he looks at the digital timestamp burned into the bottom of the video. In the middle of that smooth 3-second motion of the light, the clock on the screen jumps.
It glitches.
It doesn't glitch, it jumps forward. Precisely 7 minutes. He goes from 8.20 in 14 seconds to 8.27 in 14 seconds in a single frame.
Wait, but the video of the light moving is continuous. The audio doesn't skip.
That's the paradox. The video is perfect. The audio is perfect. You hear the car's engine, the wind noise, nothing is cut. The only thing that's wrong is that little string of numbers in the corner. The camera recorded 3 seconds of reality, but its internal clock insists that 7 minutes of time passed during that event.
How is that even possible? If there was a power surge, the whole file should be corrupted.
It should be, but it's not. And this wasn't just a playback error on his computer. He tested the file on multiple machines with different software. The 7-minute jump is baked into the data stream itself. The camera sensor was recording reality in one timeline, while its internal clock was experiencing another.
It's like The object only affected the part of the camera that measures time.
Or the object affected time itself in a bubble around the car, and the camera's clock was the only instrument sensitive enough to register that distortion, while the optical sensor just recorded what was in front of it. It raises this fundamental question: was the object interacting with the recording mechanism, or was it interacting with the flow of time itself?
And that 7-minute number, it shows up again.
It does, which is what takes this from a one-off glitch to a potential signature. We have the drone footage from Mendocino.
Yeah.
An operator's flying a high-end drone over the forest, and this impossibly huge matte black object passes underneath it.
And the drone log.
The flight log shows continuous operation. The video is stable. But buried in the data is a single-frame glitch where the embedded timestamp on the camera feed jumps forward. Guess how long?
7 minutes.
Exactly 7 minutes. Two different devices, two different locations, years apart, both in proximity to a UAP, and both experience the exact same temporal distortion value. That's not random noise. That's a pattern.
It's a signature.
It is. And we see smaller versions of this, too. They're not all 7 minutes. It's like the field can fluctuate. The witness in Nebraska, watching the lights in the field. His digital watch blinked. The numbers jumped forward 1 minute, then snapped right back, just before the object formed its final shape. A little temporal wobble.
And the woman making tea?
Her stove clock, a simple digital clock. She glanced at it. It said 2.09. She saw the thing in the window, had the whole experience with the knocking. When she looked back, the clock said 2.1 hours. 5 minutes had just vanished from her kitchen.
There's also the nurse. Leaving the hospital late at night, she sees this silver oval thing reflected in the building's glass.
And she gets in her car, and something just feels off. She checks her phone. It says 3:17 a.m. But the big atomic sync clock on the hospital wall, which she can still see, reads 3:08 a.m. Her phone, the device she had on her person, is now 9 minutes ahead of the rest of the world.
So it's not just the clocks. It's our own technology being pulled out of sync with objective reality.
The implications are just staggering. We're talking about a phenomenon that seems to be able to create a localized field that alters the rate at which time passes. And our electronics are the canaries in that coal mine. They're the things that register the change.
And it's not just time. It's power. Simple electricity.
Yes. The next layer of the signature is this powerful but temporary shutdown of electronics. It acts like an electromagnetic pulse, an EMP, but it's surgical. It's not destructive.
The Reno driver's car is the perfect example again. As the light passed over, his radio just cut out. Static. Then nothing. His phone, which had full bars, dropped to zero signal for a few seconds, then came right back.
And the dashboard lights in his car dimmed twice, in sync with the object's movement. It's like the object was drawing power from its immediate surroundings, a temporary, localized brownout.
But in the neighborhood triangle sighting, it was a blackout, a massive one.
Massive, but precise. The witness said their porch light blinked out. Then the next one down the street. Then the next. The entire row of houses went dark, followed by the street lights clicking off one by one like they'd been switched.
Like a surge or a failure, like a controlled shutdown.
Exactly. And the cars that were driving down the street at that moment, their engines just died. No sputtering, no warning. They just silently coasted to the curb. And the moment the triangle passed and was gone.
Everything came back on.
Instantly. The streetlights clicked back on. The car engines could be restarted. The systems weren't fried. They were just suppressed, held in stasis. Which brings us to maybe the most technically baffling case of all.
The unplugged radio.
I mean, get this. A witness in a rural house watching a pale glow over a field. They have an old radio in the room. It is not plugged into the wall. It has no batteries. It is an electrically dead object.
And it turned on.
It started emitting full, crackling, rushing static. And the static wasn't random. It was pulsing, in perfect sync with the light that was glowing over the field outside.
That should be impossible.
It should be. For a dead device to generate sound, it needs power. It means the field being generated by the UAP was so powerful that it was inducing an electrical current directly into the radio's internal components, right through the air.
It was powering it remotely.
It was using the radio as a passive antenna, and the energy field itself was the broadcast. The radio was translating the UAP's energy fluctuations into audible static. That proves the existence of an incredibly powerful, localized energy field.
A field that also seems to affect our attempts to record these things, the camera problem.
Ah, yes, the camera blind spots. This is one of the most frustrating parts for witnesses. They see something clearly with their own eyes, a solid, structured object. They pull out their phone to get proof, and the camera just refuses to cooperate.
With the triangle sighting, it was a solid black shape against the stars, crystal clear.
To the naked eye, yes. But every time someone tried to take a picture with their phone, the image came back as a smear of gray. Or if they tried to expose it for the stars, the triangle was just absolute featureless black. The sensor couldn't resolve it.
As if it was absorbing all the light.
Or operating in a spectrum the camera can't see. Or perhaps the field it generates actively interferes with the camera's CCD sensor. Even old analog cameras had problems. The report says the negatives came back looking like there was a scratch on the emulsion where the triangle should have been.
It's a physical interaction with the recording medium.
It is. And we see the same thing with the figures. The witness in the kitchen, the one who saw the vertical presence in the reflection on the glass, she managed to snap a photo. But she said the pixels where the figure should have been would just resolve to nothing but a fuzz.
She said it was like the camera had politely refused to record it.
What a phrase. It's like the phenomenon has a built-in stealth feature that only works on our recording technology. The human eye, with the brain behind it, can process the image. But the simple, logical grid of a camera sensor, it just gets scrambled. It can't make sense of the data it's receiving.
So the stage is set in silence, our technology is failing or telling us time is broken, and then the main event arrives. Let's talk about what people are actually seeing. The shapes themselves.
Right. After all that environmental setup, what actually appears, and again, across all these disparate locations, we see this remarkable consistency. Two dominant forms keep showing up.
The geometric shapes. Rigid, structured, and often silent and dark.
Let's start with the big one. The black triangle. This is maybe the most iconic and terrifying shape reported. It's not a light. It's an absence of light.
Witnesses describe it as a patch of sky where the stars just go out, like someone peeled back the sky or just blotted them out with a piece of black construction paper.
And it moves with this slow, methodical grace. It doesn't behave like an aircraft fighting wind. It behaves like something that is master of its own environment. The witness on Ben Nevis in Scotland saw a shadow on the snow.
A perfectly triangular shadow.
30 meters wide, moving across the ground in total dead silence. For an object to cast a shadow that crisp, that perfect, it has to be huge, it has to be close, and it has to be blocking all ambient light. It's confirming a solid three-dimensional structure. It wasn't reflecting anything. It was deleting the light.
And then you have the opposite in a way, the geometry made of light, like in Nebraska.
Right. Not a solid object, but a formation. The witnesses saw multiple separate points of light hovering over the cornfield, and then instantly they snapped into formation. They formed a rough hexagon with exact geometry.
And the witness said it was just sitting there, as casual and as impossible as a billboard in the clouds.
That casualness is what's so unnerving. The transition from random lights to a perfect, measured shape implies a level of control over light and energy that is just beyond us. The inside of the hexagon was empty sky. The edges were sharp. It was a structure made of pure light.
And the other recurring shape, the smooth one.
The silver oval, or sometimes described as a slab. The nurse leaving the hospital saw its reflection, and she described it as a slab of metal wrapped in satin. That tells you about the texture: smooth, non-reflective, a dull metallic sheen.
The witness on the North Sea saw something similar, a loose, silent oval moving low over the water, no lights, no sound.
These shapes prioritize stealth. They're not trying to be seen. The lack of shininess, the silence, the low altitude, it all points to observation. Whether it's the massive star-eating triangle or the silent satin oval, the theme is the same. Rigid, impossible geometry moving without any visible means of propulsion.
And the movement itself is the other half of the story. It's not just the shapes, it's how they dance.
Yes. The motion is defined by its total defiance of inertia. It's like the laws of physics, specifically momentum, just don't apply to them.
This is what really breaks the brain of pilots and engineers who see them. The pinpoint lights, for example. In Reno and again in Leith, Scotland, the light would be perfectly still, steady as a nailhead in the sky.
And then it would just move. A short, clean arc. Then it would stop, instantly, on a dime. Then slide to the right. The witness said nothing like any aircraft. An airplane has to bank, it has to turn, it has momentum.
These things don't. The Leith light blinked 3 times and then just shot off in a clean, horizontal streak. Gone.
The amount of G-force that would be exerted on that object and anything inside it during an instantaneous stop or a right-angle turn at that speed would be catastrophic. It would tear any known craft to pieces. But these things move like mass is just a suggestion they choose to ignore.
Leia's porch sighting is a perfect description of this. She saw a point of light that she thought was a star.
Until it moved. It would dart, then pause. zip across a section of sky, then jerk. She said it was almost zigzagging, stopping abruptly like someone slammed the brakes on a tiny invisible car. It's playful, it's provocative, it's intelligent motion.
And the strangest part of her account, it would disappear and then reappear instantly back where it started.
That's beyond just speed. That suggests something else entirely. Localized teleportation. Folding space. It's not traveling from point A to point B in a line. It's just ceasing to be at A and beginning to be at B.
And this impossible control extends to extreme environments, the lights in the storm funnel.
I mean, this one is just mind-blowing. 3 steady white lights seen inside a rotating tornado funnel, a place of unimaginable wind shear and chaotic pressure.
And they were holding perfect formation.
Perfectly stable, completely indifferent to the massive forces of nature that were tearing everything apart around them. They were in there until lightning struck near them and then they vanished. To have a stabilization system that can negate the power of a tornado is, well, it's not our technology.
Not by a long shot. And this interaction with nature gets even more direct when they go into the water.
Right. The unidentified submersible phenomena, the USPs. This is where we get a sense of their true scale and their uncanny influence on the physical world.
The Mendocino drone footage again? That massive black object passing underneath?
The description from the operator is what's so telling. He said the sunlight wrapped and fell around it, and he saw small bubbles clinging to the edges. That suggests it was wet. It had likely just breached the surface of the ocean. And for it to block his entire ground view from a drone flying at altitude, it had to be impossibly large.
And the North Sea encounter with the oval, it was hovering just above the waves.
And this is where it gets really weird. The witness noticed its reflection was missing. The water around it was shimmering, you could see ripples, but there was no mirror image of the oval on the water's surface.
Why would that be?
A few possibilities. All of them strange. Either the surface of the object is made of some material that absorbs 100% of light, a perfect black body, or its energy field is literally bending the light around it, preventing a reflection from forming. And at the same time this was happening, the tide came in.
Unnaturally fast.
Like a broad shoulder of water that came in fast, the witness's words. As if the object's gravitational or energy field was massive enough to pull the water in towards it, creating a localized temporary high tide. It was controlling the ocean.
And then there's the beam of light, Blue Water Lake, the fisherman.
This is pure cinematic power. He's out there in the dark. Suddenly, a column of white light just falls out of the sky and pierces the water like a knife. It lit the entire lake up from within, about 30 yards from his boat.
And there was no sound, no splash.
Nothing. It wasn't a physical object. It was a beam of energy or light that passed through air and then through the much denser medium of water, as if there was no difference. And then it was gone. Instantly. It suggests a way of scanning or sampling or maybe even communicating that is entirely alien to us.
So after all this, the silence, the time slips, the impossible objects, what's left behind? When the show is over and the bubble of weirdness pops, is there any proof?
That's the final piece of the puzzle, the trace evidence. And it's just as strange and subtle as the event itself. It's like the phenomenon is designed to be ambiguous. It leaves a footprint, but one that fades.
The physical marks on the ground.
They're minimal, unsettling. After the hexagon in Nebraska vanished, the farmer went out to the field. He found the corn stalks were bent over in a neat, radiating pattern.
Radiating out from a central point.
Yes, like something with immense uniform weight had pressed down on them. But they weren't broken or crushed, which is what you'd see from turbulence or a crash.
Right.
They were just pressed, as if something heavy had just rested there for a while and then lifted off.
And the traces can disappear fast. The security guard at the strip mall, he saw a shape hovering over the parking lot.
And in the morning, he went out and found a perfect circumference, maybe the size of a hubcap, in the dust on the asphalt. A perfect circle. He tried to wipe it with his glove, and it resisted. But when he came back later, after the morning dew had settled and evaporated, it was gone, washed clean.
A temporary impression, not a burn, not a scorch mark.
It suggests an interaction that isn't thermal. Maybe it was magnetic or a pressure field that just rearranged the dust particles temporarily. And then there are the biological samples.
The pine sap from the Reno driver's car.
He found this glob of what he thought was pine sap on his bumper after the encounter. But it wasn't the normal amber color. It was grayish. He scraped it into a jar. That change in color means something chemically altered it. Maybe the intense cold, maybe some kind of radiation from the field, maybe particulate matter, a tiny microscopic fingerprint.
But the traces aren't always physical, sometimes. They're figures, apparitions.
This is where it crosses a line. From a technological anomaly to a high strangeness, deeply personal encounter. The witnesses who report these entities all describe them in similar ways.
Tall, thin, and moving wrong.
Exactly. Unnaturally smooth. The contractor at the Area 51 hangar, he's working late. He sees movement in a dark, dusty corner of the building. He describes a tall and thin figure. And it moved, like it was gliding.
And the proof, or the lack of it.
No footprints. In a hangar covered in a fine layer of undisturbed dust, something tall and solid moved across the floor and left no trace. It defied the basic physics of weight and displacement. And the second he looked directly at it, it was gone.
Like it was an optical illusion, but one with presence.
Or something that exists just on the edge of our perception. We see the same thing in Loch Lomond. Two figures in dark suits, tall, rigid, unnatural in their stillness, standing where there was no path, in the middle of nowhere.
And when the witness shone a flashlight on them,
they vanished. The beam hit them, and they were gone. He swings the light away, and they reappear, further away. Again, no footprints, no disturbed ground. It's like they're made of something that light can't properly reflect. They're present to the eye, but absent to the flashlight beam.
It's the camera problem, but with a flashlight.
It is. But the most intimate and chilling one is the woman who was making tea, the knocker. She didn't see a full figure. She saw a vertical presence in the reflection of her kitchen window glass. She said it looked like it had depth, like it was behind the glass out in her dark yard.
And then came the knocks.
3 of them. Slow, measured, polite, on her locked back door, and of course there was no one there. It's a conscious interaction. It's an observer making its presence known.
And the connection she found later. That's what makes it a true horror story.
Yes.
Yeah.
She found an old photograph of her house taken decades before she ever lived there. And in the reflection of that same kitchen window, in that old photo, was the same dark vertical shape.
So it wasn't just there for her. It's tied to the location, a persistent spectral presence.
Which is terrifying. And sometimes the presence isn't seen at all. It's heard. The guards at the desert base, they consistently report hearing screams.
Human-like screams.
Thin, wavering screams coming from the empty desert just beyond the perimeter fence. They could never locate the source. And critically, their official communication equipment, their recorders, could never clearly capture the sound.
So it's an auditory ghost?
Or it's a sound delivered in a frequency that the human mind perceives as a scream, but that standard microphones can't pick up. A psychological weapon delivered via infrasound, maybe. Designed to create terror.
And that terror, it lingers. It doesn't go away when the lights are gone. That's the real aftermath, isn't it? The psychological residue.
It's the hardest part. How do you go back to a normal, predictable world when you know for a fact that it isn't? The experience leaves these behavioral scars.
New habits. The Reno driver, after his 7-minute time jump, he became obsessed with clocks.
He started checking his car clock against his phone, against the clock on his oven. He said they mismatch sometimes in small ways. He's forever looking for the glitch to happen again. He said he still checks his rearview mirror on lonely roads, looking for a light moving in a slow, perfect arc.
The world is no longer reliable.
No, and you can't even talk about it. The witnesses realize how insane their honest explanation sounds. A 7-minute time skip, a triangle that ate the stars. The witness from Leith said that after his experience, the mundane world felt obscene, like a cheap stage play he could no longer take seriously.
You're forced into silence because the truth is too ridiculous.
And that vigilance becomes a permanent part of you. The nurse who saw the oval now checks the sky by the hospital every single night. She knows the event won't fold neatly back into normal. She knows the rules can be broken.
And the man from the Iowa cornfield?
He avoids that path now. He listens. He's always listening for the first wrong note, for that silence to fall again. He's not waiting to see something. He's waiting for the world to rearrange itself again. They haven't just seen a strange object. They have witnessed the failure of the foundational laws of reality. And you don't recover from that.
So we did it. We didn't chase little green men. We hunted for a procedure, an operational signature. And what we found, what all these stories show, are these common fingerprints.
Precision, non-inertial movement.
Localized time failure, a sudden, deep silence.
Electromagnetic induction. And this strange refusal to be properly recorded by our cameras.
It all suggests that if this technology is operating here, its primary side effect isn't chaos or destruction.
No, it's control. Highly controlled disruption. It creates that temporary bubble where our rules get paused. Time, electricity, physics. And the only evidence left is the witness's memory and the subtle glitches on their devices.
It feels less like an invasion and more like a study, And observation, these objects carry a field with them that forces the environment to comply, to go silent, to bend time, to allow them to pass through almost unnoticed.
It's surgically precise.
Yeah.
It doesn't break things permanently. It just overrides them. It forces everything from a dog's instincts to a dash cam's clock to pause, register its presence through their failure, and then resume, leaving behind only questions and a profound lifelong sense of unease.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with. The next time the power flickers, or you're walking in the woods and it all goes suddenly deeply quiet, don't just reach for your phone to see if you have a signal. Check your watch. Listen for that hum in your chest and ask yourself, did the world just hold its breath for a second?
Yeah.
And did my clock notice?